I'm Ravi from Pemandu in Malaysia. Pemandu is actually the performance management and delivery unit that belongs to the Prime Minister's office. So my colleague and I are here for the next 2 days. Pemandu is Pemandu was conceived more than 5 years ago by the Prime Minister, and it was actually modeled around Tony Blair's establishment under Sir Michael Barber. What we do is not primarily policy work. What we do is we catalyze with initiatives and projects, and effectively we force it down so that the initiatives become the driver of the change, of the transformation. But what I'd like about what Chun Hong mentioned earlier is the thinking around, even if you have e-services, you're now thinking about the quality or the experience, right? Which makes me wonder, the word bureaucrat, is that the right word we should be thinking about? Or should we be talking more in terms of customer service? Because bureaucracy brings pictures of long drawn processes and the entire day spent on just a single process, right? I'm not sure if entrepreneur is also the right word, but somewhere in between would be the right thing that I could think of. I'm just going to share a brief story about Pemandu. We were set up back in 2009 by our current Prime Minister. This was as an outcome of the 2008 election, where the ruling party lost a lot of their seats. They're still in power, but they lost a lot of seats, and therefore it was a wake-up call. And what our current Prime Minister did, he actually did a very collaborative bottom-up approach by first engaging the citizens with several research and surveys of what their key areas were. And he then unveiled what he calls the National Transformation Program. And we have our rolling infrastructure plans for Malaysia. We were in the 10th Malaysia plan, so that's the underlying basis. And the house, which is again reminding Malaysians that we have strength in diversity, one Malaysia. But what's more important, he said, civil service or government will now put people first, and performance is immediate. It will not be put off. Then he introduced a couple of pillars. One, the earliest one was the Government Transformation Program, which is on your far left. Then the Economic Transformation Program, and then he unveiled his Political Transformation Program. What we in Pemandu do is, what we oversee are the first two, which is Government Transformation and Economic Transformation. Now, it is important to understand that these are programs that we introduce as catalysts to move government into action and to get the citizens as part of the program as well. So part of the program, as our boss, the minister puts it, it's all in the doing. It's not in the being, right? You don't go out there and do more analysis. You don't go out there and say the police force is not efficient, so therefore let's send them to Harvard to do a culture change program. You just dive in, you move a bunch of guys with pistols on the ground and get them to the hotspots, right? So that's exactly what we did. But before we did that, we then engaged several individuals, mostly civil servants, NGOs, civil society, in what we call an 8-step process. Now, Azri will talk a little bit more about these tomorrow, but on Thursday, sorry. the process that we follow is, again, it's a modified version of what Dato Sri Idris brought over from Shell and what he used in Malaysia Airlines to turn around Malaysia Airlines. But we call it a lab environment, where we bring in all the relevant stakeholders, civil servants, civil society, NGOs, whoever, into a room, and we lock them up for 8 weeks, maximum of 8 weeks. So the government, the various departments have to commit to having those individuals in the room for 8 weeks. And how we manage to do this is Prime Minister sends a letter out, right? And the Prime Minister attends the lab. He kicks off the lab, he comes in the middle, and he comes right at the end. He visits every lab, and he stands there and he listens. And this is exactly what we do. All the issues are laid out by the individuals, by the civil servants who are concerned. Issues are laid out, root causes are identified, the root causes are agreed to, then solutions come out. Right? And solutions are not rocket science. These are mostly solutions that have been conceived by civil servants but have been shelved for some political reason or other. Right? They all come out. We do the analysis. Now, this is where Pemandu comes in. We put analytical rigor into the process. Everything is analyzed, everything is proven, everything is data-based. Nothing is conjecture. Right? We analyze everything, put the solutions up, and the individuals in the room, not a director, not Idris Jala, not anyone from Pemandu, but the civil servants in the room will defend their position with the Prime Minister and his cabinet. Right? Now, the process then, once the solutions are solidified to some extent, we then told the government, we got to go out and engage the citizens. Right? So politicians being politicians, they say, how can you do this? You can't, they'll shoot us. How am I going to go out and defend fighting corruption? Right? They'll kill me. We said, look, none of you politicians have to come. The guys in the room will stand and defend it. So we have public open days in various cities where we engage citizens, opposition and civil society. Typically what happened was the opposition walked in and said, yeah, see, this is what we've been saying all this while. These guys couldn't do it. This is our solution. We said, thank you very much. Now it's all our solution as well, right? So we locked everyone in. Of course, we did some modifications, but we locked everyone in. That is then taken and documented in what we call our roadmap, right? So we have the government transformation roadmap, we have the economic transformation roadmap, and that is made completely public and available to everyone. We have the thick version, we have the thin version, we have the video version, and we have communication programs that go out regularly, talking about the program. Under the government transformation, we have 7 social areas: fighting corruption, fighting crime, basic primary education, rural infrastructure, public transportation, education, poverty, and cost of living. And under the economic transformation, we have 12 economic sectors. And how these sectors was chosen is, again, not rocket science. It's not to say that we're not going to focus on other sectors, but these are the sectors that, as we put it, these are the sectors that the Prime Minister can put hand to heart to say, I'm going to rob Peter to pay Paul. I'm going to take this much out of all those other programs and put it here because this is what's going to generate my economy. So we identified the 12 sectors by having more than 1,000 people in an auditorium, more than 80% of them from the private sector, and civil servants who then voted on the sectors. So again, we got public participation on what the sectors should be. And then they helped drive the economic transformation program. Now, when you ask any Pemandu person or pretty much anyone in government today what your true north is for the economic transformation program, they'll all regurgitate the same thing. That is delivering 444 billion US dollars as investments by the year 2020. 92% of that delivered by the private sector, only 8% facilitated by government, creating 3.3 million new jobs, raising GNI, gross national income per capita, from 7,000 US dollars in 2010 to 15,000 US dollars by 2020. And that's all we focus on. And these economic transformation program, individual sectors identified catalytic projects that will catalyze the economy. So Azri and I focus, I have two roles in Pemandu. One is under the economic transformation program, I'm director wholesale and retail, which is fundamentally domestic trade and consumption. And 60% of our GDP is driven by domestic consumption. So we work very closely with the domestic trade minister on specific initiatives. I also have another role which puts a lot of people off, and it's a conversation stopper, because when I introduce myself as director anti-corruption, they just walk away. But under that as well, we work very closely with the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Attorney General, the Auditor General, the police force, and so on. Now, the nexus between the two is having good social programs, especially something like fighting corruption and fighting crime, gives confidence to investors, both domestic direct and foreign direct investors. And over the last few years, ever since the Economic Transformation Program was initiated, we've seen a huge jump in the overall investments into Malaysia. Our GNI per capita has risen as of end of last year from 7,000 odd US dollars. It's risen to 10,500 US dollars as of last year, right? Despite the drop in the oil price, we hope to see that we may reach our fully developed status by before the year 2020. Hopefully by 2019 or 18. That's the current projection. As of last year, in the last 4 years, we have created 1.5 million new jobs. So these are all real numbers from the statistics department, not from Pemandu, right? All our numbers are actually validated by PricewaterhouseCoopers. All our KPIs are validated by PricewaterhouseCoopers, as well as an international panel which constitute people from World Bank and IMF and various other agencies who come and validate the process. What we did for the very first time is we took all these programs, identified, and the programs are not just high level, right? And Idris, our boss, comes from the aviation industry, and so do I. He says, well, you can't leave it at the 30,000 feet level, right? You got to land that aluminum tube, and you got to get it to the 3 feet, right? So what we consider 3 feet is very, very detailed plans for every initiative, so that as soon as you walk out of the lab, you're ready to implement. But we don't leave it there. The lab is not complete if you don't have the budget approved by the policymakers. So we make sure the budget is allocated, the individuals are identified, the program is in place. Then we go back out to the citizens and say, here's the guy who's going to deliver for you, right? He's responsible. This minister is responsible for these key indicators. And for the first time in our history, we then put every minister on a report card, right, with his key indicators, and we monitor the indicators. But at the same time, it's delivery as well. So my performance is evaluated by the fact that my minister has delivered his KPIs. So we have to help them deliver. Now, every 6 months, we have a 6I meeting. Now, like most developing countries, our ministers never go anywhere without their special officers. But this is the only meeting that he is not allowed to bring his special officer. He's given his file, which is that thick. He's got to go and defend his KPIs to the Prime Minister. And the only other person in the room is my boss, Idris Jala. Right? His KPIs are then agreed to by the Prime Minister. Then we have a gallery walk with all the senior civil servants and cabinet colleagues. And everyone gets to see each other's KPI and their scores, and they give each other comments. We take all of that down, we document it, we publish it. So every citizen gets to see how his individual minister is performing. And some ministers who perform well, they go back to their constituency just waving the letter from the Prime Minister. Some who don't come back to us to say, what do I do? In addition to that, the KPIs that we have is tracked on a weekly basis. Right? Every Thursday, my team goes out and checks with every agency on key indicators that we track for fighting corruption, that we track for wholesale and retail. And that's then input into our system. And on Friday evening at 5 p.m., now this started in the early days just between Idris Jala and the directors and within Pamandu, right? 5 p.m., the dashboard comes out, red, yellow, green, right? And if you've got reds, Idris Jala will get online purposely, will get online at 11 p.m. on Friday night and start sending out nasties to individual directors. And we'll all be sitting up on the phone with each other. How do I respond to him now, right? But today, that system is on an intranet, and it goes up to the Prime Minister, Cabinet, and secretaries. And we actually have individual ministers coming to us by Tuesday or Wednesday. Ravi, do I have anything in the red? How do I respond to PM? Because we get the PM to send out nasties at midnight. Right? So we've got them, and now we've got the secretaries, the chief secretaries of the ministries. Their KPIs are aligned with the minister's KPIs. So the civil service is aligned to all these programs, and they get to deliver. Now, just to give you a sense of how we make it as collaborative as possible, right? We've got a river that flows through Kuala Lumpur. So and this comes under the Greater Kuala Lumpur initiative of the Economic Transformation Program. This river is really muddy, really dirty. The game plan is to make it a tourist site, right? It's to clean the river, and it crosses a state, the state of Selangor and Kuala Lumpur. Kuala Lumpur, of course, is under the federal government. Selangor is under opposition, right? And we have 42 different agencies that we have to deal with. And Pamandu is the overall program manager dealing with 42 agencies, coordinating every effort to clean the river up. So that's one example. Another example is Pengerang, which is one of our largest oil and gas refinery in Johor, which has just recently been commissioned. It's created 4,000 new jobs. And it took a huge effort. We even had to move old cemeteries to site the entire project, but we got the entire community involved to get the project going. Now, that's an economic driver right now. Under the wholesale and retail, we also have one of our most grassroots programs of the economic transformation, and that is part of domestic consumption is to have more hypermarkets. And in the lab, I actually had the hypermarkets foreign and domestic hypermarkets who came in there and started fighting with each other. We had the domestic mom and pop grocery stores who were fighting with the hypermarkets. And the notion was every time you have a hypermarket come up, 10 mom and pop stores would die. So while we require more hypermarkets, we got the hypermarkets to commit to modernizing the mom and pop stores because they said that there was a symbiotic relationship. So we identified 5,000 mom and pop grocery outlets where we provide a soft loan. They come in voluntarily, they work with the hypermarkets, and they modernize themselves. So most of these mom and pop stores have now been modernized. They look like 7-Elevens. Most of them, more than 50% of them, have seen a more than 45% jump in their income. And we track all of that on a weekly basis. So this is some of the things that we've been doing. In addition to this, our Prime Minister offered our services to the South-South collaboration. And therefore, we started working in Tanzania 2-3 years ago. We've established a performance management and delivery unit under the President's office, and we continue to work there. We've also started working in South Africa, and we've also started doing some work in India. We started with the state of Maharashtra. We've now done a lab in the state of Maharashtra to make Maharashtra drought-free by the year 2019. And that's been adopted by the current Chief Minister, and he's taking it forward. Mr. Modi then heard about it, and he's then come out to our Prime Minister to say that he'd like to follow through on this. And we are in discussions with a few other states in India to propagate this. So that's really pretty much what we do.